Guten Tag, ladies and gentlemen. German name 1990 here once again. How is everyone doing? I know it's been nearly a year since I uploaded my most recent YouTube video, but a lot has happened in 2025, and I thought I'd show it all in a multi-part video chronicling just how wonderful 2025 was. So I'm going to start off with this keychain. And not just any old keychain, but a keychain that I got from attending the Wheel of Fortune contestant search back in February of last year. And there was a good reason why I wanted it, and I just remember asking one of the coordinators, I said, can I just have a keychain? And he said, oh yeah, go ahead, it's all yours. And all I had to do was ask, ladies and gentlemen. If you're worried about the answer being no, well, the answer is going to be no. But if you just ask, you'll have a better chance of the answer being yes, a much better chance. It's not going to be 100%, but it's going to be much better than if you don't. But there was a reason why I wanted this keychain, so let me turn it around. It's one of the first pieces of wheel merch to sport the yellow $850 wedge. And I'll tell you, I mean, just thinking about it, 2025 was quite a year for the yellow 850, considering that it made its debut in 2021, as, you know, it had been absent from the show for 42 years, since 1979. So for it to be a playable dollar value once again since 2021, it would be another few years before it would be a regular value. So I'm very happy to have this. I'm going to keep this nice and safe here too. So, and I'll go into why 2025 was quite the year for 850 in a moment. So yeah, this is just one of the many things I plan to show off in this part. You're not going to believe some of the things that I got last year. As you can see, I got both of Just Play's adaptions. I got the new and improved game with Ryan Seacrest. I got the 2-in-1 from Dollar General featuring Wheel of Fortune and Pop Culture Jeopardy. This shirt was also something that I got. This t-shirt was something that I got for attending the Wheel of Fortune contestant search back in February of last year. And here's how I got it. Some of the contestant coordinators, he's riling up the crowd. He's saying, hey, let's practice the good old-fashioned Wheel of Fortune chant. And they did this multiple times throughout the search. And this one time I decided to bring out my inner Charlie O'Donnell. Charlie O'Donnell, shout out to you. You're awesome. Way past cool. So I did so, and considering that Wheel of Fortune turned 50 years old last year, January 6, 2025 was the 50th anniversary to when Wheel of Fortune premiered on NBC. So making a nice little version of that based off of the intro spiel that Charlie had for seasons 10 through 11 from late 1992 to early 1994. And I just really brought it out. And after I did so, this one contestant coordinator, he points at the he points at me and says to the crowd, this super fan looks as if he ought to get himself a t-shirt. What do you say? And the reaction from the crowd was pretty much unanimous. So there we go. I got the shirt. So, very happy to have that. I'm going to keep that nice and safe, just like the keychain. I also got, but I just scratched the surface. You are not going to believe some of the other Wheel of Fortune merch that I got. I got Ravensburger's Italian Wheel of Fortune game, based off their version that recently came back. Here's the spinner. It's probably the first Wheel of Fortune board game out there, regardless of what country it's based on. It's the first to feature the mystery wedges. You got 500 euro mystery spaces, and to determine, there are 2 cards. They're permanent editions, so you can't remove them. What you can do, there are 2 cards, and when you just basically flip a card, one of them has a bankrupt, and the other, I think, has 5,000 euros underneath. I also got the British version family game and the travel version, the takeaway edition. And here are the spinners, and here's how to tell which is which. Here's how I tell which is which. Here's how I know it's from the family game and which one is from the takeaway edition. This is from the family game. Sorry, I gotta see. Yeah, it doesn't spin all that well. The takeaway edition, on the other hand, let's try it again there. It spins much more freely, I can assure you, ladies and gentlemen. So let's try this again. Nope. Not happening. Yes, and it is indeed happening there. Let's spin it again. Let's see if we can get something a little bit better there. 250 pounds. That's good enough. Yeah, look how freely that spins. So I'm definitely going to be using this. Makes me very happy that I got both editions, because now I have 2 spinners, one of which spins very freely. But if you thought getting all this was something, well, guess what? You ain't seen nothing yet. Getting this was difficult enough because of the tariffs that were imposed, but getting this, what I'm about to show you, is even more amazing, because there were only 2 copies on Italy's eBay that had this game. One of them said, I'm not even going to, I tried to buy it. It just said, I didn't even give it a second thought. I tried to buy it. The seller canceled it and says, nope, I am not selling to the United States. Not willing to give up. I kept checking, and I found someone who was willing to say yes. Now, I had to pay tariffs and import fees, but I was willing to pay just about anything to get my hands on it. And it's an Italian Wheel of Fortune board game, but it wasn't just this. It really was. In fact, it wasn't that at all. It was, I don't know, a little more something like this. It's an unlicensed Wheel of Fortune game from Italy. And, yeah. And I'm very glad that I got it. It's like, I'm one of the few people in the world, who have a copy of this thing, probably outside of Italy. In fact, I'm kind of left to wonder how many people outside of Italy, let alone Europe, has a copy of this thing. So I have the contents and everything out, so I'm going to show those to you in a minute. But yeah, what I will say is this: the letter boards, they're made of very thin plastic, as the wheel itself, as the base for the wheel itself. You have the play money. The letters are made of paper. So, but the wheel itself is made of some very, not just the wheel, but the flipper itself, made from very, very tough plastic. But here's the letter boards right here. Very thin. And yes, I didn't get one with blue or orange for the letter board pieces, but that's fine. I mean, as long as I got 4, I'll take it. Besides, I can play a game with Play a Wheel of Fortune game with 48 space letterboards. Here's all the accessories. The letters, the play money, the wheel. Now, I read the instructions, and what you have to do, you actually fill out the puzzle itself. And you come up with a word, and then you spin the wheel. If the wheel, it's not just the colored sections, but these sections as well. So let's say your word has the letter E. If you spin up the E, in this case you'll get 1,500 of whatever the currency is, whatever the in-game currency is. You'll get 1,500 for each occurrence of the E. Now, if you spin up chance, you get to choose any letter you want, and I think it's going to be worth like 2,000 or something like that, or 5,000 or something. But you don't want to spin up this. If you spin up pass, you will lose your turn. Play will move on to the next player. This is the space you really want to be worried about. You will lose all your money. You will lose all your progress. You're going to have to start all over. The game is over basically when all the money is handed out. But, you know, I could be wrong on some of the aspects of this game, but I really don't have to worry about the letters on the top. You can play just a regular, typical old game of Wheel of Fortune. You can use this for free spin. You can use this for lose a turn. And of course, you can use this for bankrupt. So let's give it a good spin, see what I can get here. Alright, I got $1,500. Or euros, or liras, or francs, or whatever. And, you know, in fact, you can see, for some of those who are looking at the values, it's like, wow, this kind of reminds me of France's wheel layout. Well, you know, I'm sure it should, because France's 1987 round 1 layout had values starting from 500 francs all the way to 3,000. And there were actually two 3,000 franc spaces on the round 1 layout. Now last year I also saw a clip of the round 3 layout that from France's version when it premiered. It actually used their round 3 layout had aspects just like our round 3 layout had at the time, the daytime version back in '87. It had 2 bankrupts, it had lose a turn, and it had a top value of 6,000 francs. But later on, they just said, we're going to use the round 1 layout from now on. We're just going to add wedges to it. But way back when it started back in January of '87, the French version said, we'll use templates, 1 for each round, and that's how they did it for a while. So I haven't seen their round 2 layout yet. Hopefully I will soon. I just need to get lucky. So let's give this another spin, see if I can get something even better. Okay, 1,500. It's the same thing. Alright, that's fine. But Wheel of Fortune isn't the only game show that I got home adaptions from. Let me show you this. I got the Tyco Travel Jeopardy Masters Edition. It's one of the rarest home adaptions of Jeopardy in existence. There were no other, when I saw this, I was just in the right place at the right time, and I wasn't even looking for this. I just said it's there, and I said, let's see if we can find any other copies. If so, let's not worry about it too much. But eventually I saw there were no other copies. There have been times where I've checked eBay since then for this specific edition, and nothing has popped up. And I'm like, you know, makes me very glad that I jumped at the opportunity to get it when I did. So this was great. Very glad that I got this. As you can see, I also got some other stuff with Wheel of Fortune from Dylan's Candy Bar, and I'll tell you how I got that. I'll tell you how I got that in in uh, a later part of not this video, but since it's a multi-part, I'll tell you how I got that. I got this as well. I know it spins like a compass needle. I'll say that. But as the year came to an end back in December, I remember trying to get this version of Just Play's Wheel of Fortune game was very difficult. I just kept waiting, kept looking for opportunities. Says, is there any way for me to get my hands on this? And eventually I found a store that had a copy of it on store shelves. But it was miles away from me, and I just said, if I can have this delivered to my house, I will. And there's a good reason why I wanted this. Unlike this version where yeah, it spins. Yeah, great. Well, it spins kind of like this. But unlike this version's wheel, this version has, you guessed it, $8.50 as a playable dollar value, making this the first ever Wheel of Fortune board game of any kind. Board game, not video game, not electronic game, not mobile game, board game. Strictly speaking, board game, I think released anywhere in the world that has $8.50 as a playable dollar value. So that's why I wanted this. It's just another case of what made $8.50, that made 2025 quite a year for $8.50. So very happy. But I'm not done with showing you game show stuff. But I got a few more pieces of game show merch to show you, including a very rare board game based off of this one game show that not everyone has heard about. And I was just in the right place at the right time, and I saw it, and I said, let's get it before someone else does. Now, a lot of people, I did mention, electronic games. And, many of you have seen my Wheel of Fortune electronic games from Tiger Electronics, including my very rare Wheel of Fortune live play game. I'm keeping that very well protected. Since I didn't get that in 2025, I got that back in 2019. I've had that game with me now for 6 years. I'm keeping it well protected in a nice cardboard box lined with foam sheets. Some of you may have seen that. But Tiger Electronics didn't just make electronic games. In fact, some of the games they made were travel games. But here, check this out. Pocket Travel Games, the Clicks series. This is the rarest of them all for Tiger. This is based off of the game show Funhouse. As you can see, this has been kept. This has been open, mint condition. I paid quite a bit for this, but very well worth the cost. This is a very interesting piece of game show history and Tiger Electronics history. So, very happy to have this. So yeah, I'm sure there are other copies out there, but I'm just glad to have a copy. But I got a couple more things to show you, and I'm going to end the part off with something truly, truly, truly amazing. You're gonna enjoy it. But I'm gonna show you couple more things. Just gonna show you just a sweep what I have here. Now, some of you may be wondering, where's the spinner from this game? Why am I not showing it off like I did the other ones? Well, I'll show you in just a moment. 1 moment later. All right, $300. Okay, we can do a little bit better than that, but it's better than a bankrupt. In fact, it's nice that there's no loose turn here, although 850 could very easily be here. Actually, it can. Watch this. It goes right there, and that goes right here, and this old thing goes right here. Press right there, I press right there, and there we go. More values, lots of values here. Every multiple of $50 from 200 to 1,000. Then you have the top big values of $1,500 and $5,000. Try that again. There we go, $1,000. But multiply that by 10, and I'll tell you something. Wheel of Fortune's 50th anniversary was not the only game show milestone last year. The following month, Wheel of Fortune's arrival, The Price is Right, celebrated its 10,000th episode. Now, interestingly enough, The Price is Right had not one, but two 10,000th episodes. Their first was part of an April 2011 April Fool's gag. But the one that they had back in February of last year was legit. And unlike the first one, which was just chock full of disasters, the second one was home to some fantastic and exciting moments. Another thing that happened that was Price is Right related last year was that Costco was selling Eastwind Sports Plinko game, and it's many times better than the one that Buffalo Games released back in 2020. It's bigger and better in just about every possible way. And here it is. Let's see if we can get something good here. $10,000. Look at that. Boom. So I first heard about it through a Google search last year, and I was like, oh, okay, so it's going to be available soon enough at Costco. So I kept checking Costco, and I eventually learned there were a few things that I had to do. But I remember this, my first attempt at getting it, I went to a Costco near my home, and it wasn't even like a store that you could usually go into. So I just gave up on it and said maybe they don't have it just yet. But later that day I saw something else that was game show related. I saw a film titled The Luckiest Man in America. It was chronicling Michael Larson's run on Press Your Luck back in the spring of 1984. I went to see it, and the film itself admitted that it was taking a lot of liberties, but it was still a fantastic movie to watch. So if you're into game shows like I am, check the movie out, but definitely even a fictionalized version, even a fictionalized Hollywood version is miles behind the actual story. If you want If you want a more realistic, if you want something more realistic, then watch the 2003 documentary Big Bucks, The Press Your Luck Scandal. I remember watching that when it first aired on GSN back in '03. It's a 2-hour long documentary, an hour of which is the episodes themselves, the 2 half-hour episodes. And it also chronicled Michael Larson's life as well. So, very interesting documentary, and a lot of people in the documentary were saying it was a scandal, and it wasn't. It was a man who did 6 months worth of homework. He got no inside help. He watched it himself. He studied everything, and that's how he was able to win quite a bit of money. But I remember first hearing of Press Your Luck back in 2001, and through a promo that GSN was showing, and its similarity to Wheel of Fortune was not lost on me. In fact, Bill Carruthers, who helped direct the 1973 Shoppers Bazaar pilot, a pilot that would go on to become Wheel of Fortune, he would afterwards he would go on to create Second Chance in 1977. Although that lasted for a few months, he reworked everything a few years later, and the end result was Press Your Luck, which was created, which aired its first episode in September of 1983. The same month, Wheel of Fortune became syndicated. So going back to Wheel of Fortune one final time, I got one more piece of Wheel of Fortune merch to show you, and by golly, you are not going to believe it. And here it is, ladies and gentlemen, Wheel of Fortune, RSTLNE. And I think it stood for Ryan Seacrest to launch new era. Now, some of you may be wondering, this looks very familiar. Certain news outlets had something like this. And yes, they did. So what was inside this? Well, let me open this up and I'll show you what it had. And actually, I was right. Ryan Seacrest to launch new era. It had the countdown calendar. Season 42 to premiere Monday, September 9th. So what they did was the number of days, and they would just day by day move it. So 24 down to 1. And day 0 would be Monday, September 9th of 2024. Now this was, again, me being in the right place at the right time to get this. So, some store on eBay was just selling a whole bunch of television-related stuff, and I said, let's get it while I still can. Give it a good spin. Let's see what number I can spin up. I can use this for raffles or something. Okay, so whoever is number 3, congratulations, you won something. But yes, this is great. I'm very happy to have this. I know some of the stuff could be a little bit better. You can see some scuff marks on wedges 5 and 6, and there are some creases here and there on the box. So trying to keep that to a minimum as much as possible. But yeah, I'm very happy to have this. This is great. This is something I'm definitely going to try and treasure and protect as much as possible. But I'm far from done. This is some of just the game show stuff that I showed off, and for the next part I'm going to show you some other stuff that I got. So please stay tuned for that. Part 2 will be up shortly.